All right, so this is gonna be the last political video. Gonna get back into talking about just my day and stuff, but I just want to read this article. It's titled, damn, I got all these stuff I need to get rid of. Pros and cons of Trump's greatest economy in history. It was a time of fear and chaos 4 years ago. The death count was mounting as COVID-19 spread. Financial markets were panicked. Oil prices briefly went negative. The U.S. Federal Reserve slashed its benchmark interest rates to combat a sudden recession, and the U.S. government went on a historic borrowing spree, adding trillions to the national debt to keep families and businesses afloat. But as Donald Trump recalled that moment at a recent rally, the former president exuded pride. We had the greatest economy in history, the Republican told his Wisconsin audience. The 30-year mortgage rate was at a record low, the lowest ever recorded, 2.65%, and that's what your mortgage rates were. The question of who can best steer the U.S. economy could be a deciding factor in who wins November's presidential election. While an April Gallup poll found that Americans were more likely to say that immigration is the country's top problem, the economy in general and inflation were also high on the list. Trump may have an edge over President Joe Biden on, this is an old article though, on key economic concerns, according to an April poll by the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs. The survey found that Americans were more likely to say, where to get rid of it? More likely to say that immigration is the country's top problem. The economy in general and inflation were also high on the list. Trump may have an edge. Oh, read that. Trump helped the country with job creation and cost of living. Nearly 6 in 10 Americans said that Biden's presidency hurt the country on the cost of living. But the economic numbers expose a far more complicated reality during Trump's time in the White House. His tax cuts never delivered the promised growth. His budget deficits surged, then stayed relatively high under Biden. His tariffs and trade deals never brought back all the lost factory jobs. And there was the pandemic, an event that caused historic job losses for which Trump accepts no responsibility, as well as low inflation, for which Trump takes full credit. If anything, the economy during Trump's presidency never lived up to his own hype. Trump assured the public in 2017 that the U.S. economy, with his tax cuts, would grow at 3%. But he added, I think it could go to 4, 5, maybe even 6% ultimately. If the 2020 pandemic is excluded, growth after inflation averaged 2.67% under Trump, according to figures from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Include the pandemic-induced recession, and that average drops to an anemic 1.45%. By contrast, growth during the second term of then-President Barack Obama averaged 2.33%, so far under Biden, annual growth averaging 3.4%. Trump also assured the public that his tax cuts would pay for themselves because of stronger growth. The cuts were broad, but disproportionately favored corporations and those with extreme wealth. The tax cuts signed into law in 2017 never fulfilled Trump's promises on deficit reduction. According to the Office of Management and Budget, the deficit worsened to $779 billion in 2018. The Congressional Budget Office had forecasted a deficit of $563 billion before the tax cuts, meaning the tax cuts increased borrowing by $216 billion that first year. In 2019, the deficit rose to $984 billion, nearly $300 billion more than what the CBO had forecasted. Then the pandemic happened, and with a flurry of government aid, the resulting deficit topped to $3.1 trillion. That borrowing enabled the government to make direct payments to individuals and small businesses as the economy was in lockdown, often increasing bank accounts and making many feel better off, even though the economy was in a recession. Deficits have also run high under Biden as he signed into law a third round of pandemic aid and other initiatives to address climate change, build infrastructure, and invest in U.S. manufacturing. His budget deficits $2.8 trillion 2021, $1.38 trillion 2022, and $1.7 trillion 2023. The CBO estimated in a report issued Wednesday that the extension of parts of Trump's tax cuts set to expire after 2025 would add another $4.6 trillion to the national... Why does it keep doing this? To the national debt through the year of 2034. Inflation was much lower under Trump, never topping an annual rate of 2.4%, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The annual rate reached as high as 8% in 2022 under Biden and is currently at 3.4%. There were three big reasons why inflation was low during Trump's presidency: the legacy of the 2018 financial crisis, Federal Reserve actions, and the coronavirus pandemic. Trump entered the White House with inflation already low, largely because of the slow recovery from the Great Recession, when financial markets collapsed and millions of people lost their homes to foreclosure. The inflation rate barely averaged more than 1% during Obama's second term as the Fed struggled to push up growth. Still, the economy was expanding without overheating. But in the first 3 years of Trump's presidency, inflation averaged 2.1%, roughly close to the Fed's target. Still, the Fed began to hike its own benchmark rate to keep inflation low at the central bank's own 2% target. Trump repeatedly criticized the Fed because he wanted to juice growth despite the risk of higher prices. Then the pandemic hit. Inflation sank and the Fed slashed rates to sustain the economy during lockdowns. When Trump celebrates historically low mortgage rates, he's doing so because the economy was weakened by the pandemic. Similarly, gasoline prices fell below an average $2 a gallon because no one was driving in April 2020 as the pandemic spread. The United States lost 2.7 million jobs during Trump's presidency, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. If the pandemic months are excluded, he added 6.7 million jobs. By contrast, 15.4 million jobs were added during Biden's presidency. That's 5.1 million more jobs than what the CBO forecasted he would add before his coronavirus relief and other policies became law, a sign of how much he boosted the labor market. Both candidates have repeatedly promised to bring back factory jobs. Between 2017 and the middle of 2019, Trump added 461,000 manufacturing jobs, but the gains began to stall and then turned into layoffs during the pandemic, with the Republican posting a loss of 178,000 jobs. So far, the U.S. economy has added 773,000 manufacturing jobs during Biden's presidency. And there's that. There's one more thing I need to read. Then we'll conclude all the debate and just political stuff. So people talk about the economy, right? Yes. They blame Biden for gas prices, although gas prices are finally going down. People just, they want, like you and I, we want instant results, and instant results is not the answer to things. It's slow growth, whether it's financial growth, whether it's physical growth, emotional growth. Like this whole NoFap journey, it's slow growth, day by day, not seeing any results, month by month, not seeing any results. Anyways, actually, like I just typed in on Google, I said, how's the economy doing? Because everybody's talking about the economy, it's really bad. The real gross domestic product, the GDP, increased at an annual rate of 2.8% in the third quarter of 2024, according to the advanced estimate. In the second quarter, real GDP increased 3.0%. And then, like, there was a question, you ask on Google, is the economy in the U.S. good right now? And the U.S. economy has shown steady growth since it dropped to unprecedented levels during the second quarter of the 2020 due to the pandemic, and then rebounded almost as quickly. A year later, the second quarter of 2021, the rate of annual growth hit a high not seen since the 1950s. So the problem that most people they think the economy's doing bad is because grocery prices have increased, and gas prices were high, but they're going down now. And hey, yes, I'm sure there are articles of some good things that President Trump's done, but there's a lot of just like the article I read is fact-checked and from a central party, not Republican, not Democrat. Hey, take with it as you will, but there's just so much hype that just people follow the crowd and people just don't want to think for themselves. Anyways, last political argument, back on just talking about my day. I went to a meeting, got this like goodie bag with stuff, shirts, and I don't know, just talked about the client that I'm working with and his schedule and a new check-in online thing they're gonna be doing. I don't know, stuff that's not interesting. Anyways, but yeah, and I still need to call the guy. I'll probably call him next week because I'm heading out tomorrow to the race. Fingers crossed, we'll see how I do. But I'm done talking politics. I'm not much of my dad has always been into politics, always following each one, always like he's constantly watching the news, and so no more politics talk. I'm done. He's president, he got elected, all we can do is like hope he follows through with what he says and makes the economy better and all that. And we shouldn't place all our hopes and dreams on one person to change our lives or improve our lives. That's on us. We take responsibility for that. And it's like we choose what we choose to eat, put in our minds, put in our bodies. The diet isn't necessarily physical, but it can also mean who we choose to listen to, the thoughts we choose to think. And anyways, that's my spiel. I could have. See the little microphone I got from Amazon a while ago? So I am saving up still. So the goal next year, I just put out a crazy number, $50,000 to $100,000 that I will see in my bank. Like I'm just gonna manifest. I've never seen that amount of money in my bank or across like different assets. So financial independence by next year. Trading, investing, but that also comes from building skills. Like I'm listening to a lot of just podcasts and YouTube interviews of just people, and I'm getting into that headspace. It's like kind of as you start to listen to semen retention content or NoFap content or whoever you want to like fitness content, you tend to like get in that mode, that energy frequency, and you're like, yeah, maybe I will run a mile today, or maybe I will start saving up and putting part of that money into maybe a trading account or investing account, and slowly, brick by brick, it just stacks and compounds. And the great thing about compounding is it might start off slow, but then over time, it's got this like exponential curve. And I was going to talk about like how the NoFap journey could kind of be like the stock market or any type of financial market of you see some growth, you have some bad days, it goes down, maybe you see some growth, and then bam, you have a very bad day, like it tanks down, you're having an awful day, urges, and you want to relapse, and then all of a sudden you get over those, and all of a sudden, bam, you're here, you're feeling great, confidence, and maybe you have a little bit of dip. And just like in life, in the long run, if we stick to that journey, we will get to where we want to get. And like the start line will be here, but we will get here. But it's the journey that no one wants to take, because it involves a lot of just struggles. Like this NoFap journey, it's hard. I mean, there's been so many times that I've almost relapsed, and yes, it gets easy, but there are those days where, man, I've been this close to relapsing, and there will be days in the future, but it's like I can't for sure say that this is the streak that I finally figured out, because I don't know. Like my mind is constantly wanting to self-sabotage me and push me back and get like have unproductive days and eat junk food, and had McDonald's on a stream last night, and that's the mind. And for me, balance doesn't work for me. Ultimatums do work for me. Holding myself accountable does work for me. And beating myself up in those moments of just in those moments where I do go back on my word helps, because it trains my subconscious to say like, this wasn't right, let's learn from it and never go back. Because as human beings, we run away from pain and go towards pleasure. So if we can associate some pain with the act of relapsing or the act of going back on your word, having that junk food, then hopefully the subconscious remembers not to do it again when presented with the urge. So, I'll catch you all tomorrow. Yeah, I know I'm gonna get all sorts of comments. Or no comments, that's fine too, but and I think there are days or there are cycles where the YouTube algorithm pushes out my videos, and then there are cycles where it doesn't get as many views, and so far it's been pretty random. But maybe there is some videos that are better than others that pushes it out. Who knows? Anyways, I'll catch you all tomorrow. If you made it this far, comment down pickles, because why not? Haven't had a pickle in a while. Peace.